1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Guys have been simping all day long, talking and gawking at the humanized dog. All the little birdies on Twitter's side kept the series trending from noon till night. Loona human, woof, woof, woof. Loona human, woof, yipping a woof. Oh, Loona human, you'll be getting lots of odds tonight. Woof, 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 bark. Yes, thank you. I'll be here all week. And while I have you all here, allow me to analyze the episode that this image came from. And you all left before I finished the sentence. That's actually kind of impressive. Oh well, I tried. Come on, Loona, let's get out of here. I'll buy you a coffee on the way home.
Thanks.
Why are so many people obsessed with your human form anyway?
Come on, you know why.
Whoa, spring break, dude, yeah! Yep, spring break. During a quarantine. In February. And it's freezing outside. In fact, when I first watched this episode, there was so much snow on the ground that I could jump out of my 2-story bedroom window and live to tell the tale. Yeah, Spring Broken had some of the worst timing in the world for me. Coming out at a time when it was too freezing to go to the beach, and even if I did go, I couldn't be near anyone, so... blech. But painful reminders of my current situation aside, how exactly does this episode hold up on its own? Well, I'd be lying if I said it was my favorite, but I'd also be lying if I said I didn't enjoy myself. This was a ton of fun. I mean, it's IMP, on the beach, Christina V gets a song, Richard Horvitz gets to play drunk, and there's enough insane action and bloody mayhem to make any edgy teen say, yes, I quite enjoyed that. You know something memorable is gonna come out of that equation. And even if you don't care for the sand or sex shenanigans, this episode also stands as a good example of why Helluva Boss is such a standout amongst most adult cartoons nowadays. Not only does it fix many of the problems that these kinds of shows suffer from, but it's constantly fixing its own problems, episode by episode. Like, Vivzi knows we exist, she knows we're talking, she knows we have problems, and she listens. And this leads to more than just blind admiration or fascination over her work. This leads to respect. I respect you, Viv, you and your crew. Heck, in this very episode, they managed to fix one of the biggest issues that I've had since the show's inception. But we'll get to that when we get to that. There's a lot I gotta cover first. So let's dive right in, have a beachin' good time, and make some bad choices. Oh yeah, slightly off-center video. I'm a rebel. It's time for Helluva Boss Episode 3, Spring Broken. So the starting gun for our day of beach fun ends up taking place in the IMP parking lot, where a wager is set between Blitz and his... You ready for this? Smoking hot, succubus, pop star ex-girlfriend, Verosica. Yeah, like this and that. They were, they were, yeah. What? Yeah, apparently Blitz dated this woman once upon a whenever, and now she's back for some sweet revenge. Now, aside from the hilarity that is Blitz's employees just roasting him because of how night and day this is, it's yet another reveal that just sends my intrigue into overdrive. I mean, not only is one of Blitz's sisters apparently in rehab, unless that was just a joke, but I'm gonna say it's not because I know Verosica really wants to cut deep, but he somehow managed to land this piece of work sometime in his past. How the heck does something like that happen? Well, as long as we're making guesses here.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
So we're shown in the pilot that Blitz and his sisters have the group title of the Amazing Imp Siblings. And I imagine that they always perform their acts together as a trio. So maybe anytime that Blitz was tanking during his act, because we know from Fizz that no one laughed at his jokes and the kids were scared of him, his sisters would do something behind him or in the background to liven up the crowd, giving Blitz the illusion that the people loved him while never telling him the truth. And during that time, he probably had a pretty good life. I mean, he had his dream job, he thought he was popular, he might have been a lot kinder and more charming back then, and maybe that explains how he managed to land Verosica. Maybe they had connections, both being in the entertainment industry, and when they first met up, he was just a nice guy that treated her really well. I mean, his interactions with Loona show that he can be an actually kind and thoughtful guy when the chips are down, and we have no time frame of their relationship or when they first met yet, so it's totally possible. For all I know, it might just be a Roger and Jessica Rabbit situation.
What do you see in that guy?
He makes me laugh.
But then when his sisters break the news that the audience actually hates him, he probably gets really depressed, realizing that everything he thought was a lie. And this would lead to him doing some terrible stuff, like having some angry outbursts, killing some people at their next show, treating Vivziepop like trash by stealing her car and maxing out her credit cards, and maybe his sister felt so bad for ruining her brother's life that it drove her to drink and eventually become a washed-up has-been circus performer. You see, this is why Helluva Boss is so unique. A lot of adult cartoons, at least from what I've seen, try to push the boundaries of what can we get away with, including stuff like very graphic violence, overt sexual themes, constant swearing, and really offensive content. And yeah, there's clearly a market for that, or most of these shows wouldn't have lasted as long as they have, but the problem is that most of these shows only focus on that. Meaning once they stop being funny and or shocking, they also stop being engaging. Like, the value of those shows live and die off of shock humor. And once the audience breaks all their funny bones and pops all their monocles, there's nothing left. Meanwhile, Helluva Boss includes a lot of this extreme content as well, but adds extra pieces, like multi-layered characters, intriguing lore, mysterious backstories, and emotional moments that get to breathe without being interrupted by jokes all the time. So if you want to have that kind of over-the-top, ultra-violent 60 swears per second fun, but you also want compelling characters, like maybe you think Futurama's too tame or BoJack Horseman is too depressing, this show can let you have both at the same time. You can have your cake and give it a compelling character too, and I think that's fantastic. And this is coming from someone who usually hates these kinds of extreme shows, so that's an accomplishment. Though I do have to admit that the concept of rehab in hell sounds kinda wrong? I mean, it's hell. Isn't this the place where substance abuse is encouraged? Why would anyone want to rehabilitate addicts if society centers around them being addicts? Unless... She went to the Has-Been Hotel! Actually, no, that's not possible. I mean, she's a hellborn demon, and that's only for human sinners, and maybe another rehab center could be possible, because hell's shown to have laws and morally ambiguous people, so... Or Has-Been Hotel! Anyway, the plot of the episode revolves around Blitz and Vivziepop creating a little bet to see if IMP can bag and tag more people than the succubi can seduce. And the winner of this wager gets the coveted and much sought after parking space. Yep, this entire bet was set up because Vivziepop stole Blitz's parking space. At first I thought this was just Petty Blitz being Petty Blitz, but then I actually took a look at the parking lot. Seriously, look at this place. Somebody smashed through the toll gate and messed up the lot so badly that they canceled the $5 entry fee and changed it to reserved parking. This place is cutthroat. And even with reserved parking, you still got people being jerks. I mean, we got someone parking their freaking boat here. There's a tank that takes up a ton of room. This guy in the pink car's taking up 3 spots all by himself. And this guy's halfway into the building, so he might as well have just parked inside. The fact that Blitz secured a space at all is a miracle. He better be able to keep it. So the wager is set, and this wager acts as a vehicle to bring our favorite characters to the beach and allow for plenty of fun side plots and shenanigans in the second half. And for the most part, I think they deliver. For instance, we get some shining moments from Vivziepop's head henchman hellhound, Vortex. And yeah, I freaking love this guy. So much. I have a major soft spot for big burly guys who you know could snap you like a toothpick if they wanted to, but when you get to know them, you find out that they're super nice and super cool. And Tex is the perfect combo of chill and warm with a little dash of goofball sprinkled in. Not to mention James Monroe Inglehart nailing it in the voice department. It's actually kinda sad that the henchman is more interesting than the antagonist he works for. I mean, Vivziepop is fine, her back and forth with Blitz is funny, Christina V's voice is pure ear candy, she has a really pretty design both as a human and a demon, but other than that... Outside of aesthetics, there's not a lot to her. Much like an actual succubus, I guess. But I've got my fingers crossed that she will get better with time, especially because we might be seeing her again in the upcoming Lust Ring episode. I mean, in this clip from the Season 1 trailer, we see the same boots that defy physics, so I doubt that we've seen the last of her posse. There's also a little Moxie and Millie, or M&M, C-plot, where the two of them try to handle some of the victims on their own. And not only does some devil booze turn a fish into a gigantic monster which Millie then slaughters in fantastic fashion, but some earth booze turns Moxie into a giggly, drunken mess. Making for probably the funniest and cutest thing that Helluva Boss has ever done. I'm not kidding, Moxie being wholesome drunk is the most precious thing ever. From the way he prolongs his words, to the way he just flops all over the beach like a wet noodle. And you can tell Richard Horvitz is having an absolute blast doing this voice. Don't get me wrong, the rest of the humor is good, like Moxie being a total music snob and Blitz's mind just tuning him out, or the main cast giving the furries of the world the disapproving devil eyes, but this is easily the highlight for me. He's just the sweetest little tipsy possum on the beach, isn't he? And speaking of the beach, it's not only a fresh new location for the series, but it's easily the place where the visuals shine the most. We get some great use of color like the neon blue of the fish against the dark purple sky, a cool silhouette of Eminem sneaking around, some crowd shots where every demon and every human has a standout design, and the usual background gags present throughout, like a poster for a music band, a list of Blitz's potential horse names, and... wait. We're the Rep. Oh my gosh, is that a German reference? It is! It's officially canon! Blitz for German Rumble 2021 confirmed! Yeah! I had a moment there. The moment has passed. Back to the review. And of course, I'd be drawn and quartered if I didn't mention the big one. Congratulations, Loona! I finally care about you. I'm interested in you. I know you exist. Nah, I'm just kidding. While Loona's development here isn't nearly as strong as Stolas' or Blitz's before her, they did succeed in giving her some unique standout traits. For one thing, she proves to be a pretty useful asset to the business, being the only one with a human disguise and apparently having a ×1,000,000 sniffer. I mean, she could just take a big whiff of a list of names and then immediately get thermal vision so she can single them all out. I know this is all just supposed to be fun and shouldn't be taken too seriously, but how the heck does that work? She didn't sniff something with a musk or a scent on it like a normal dog, it's just words on a piece of paper. Are hellhound noses just super intelligent? If I gave her the market reports to smell, would she know what stocks to invest in? And if so, would Blitz ever take advantage of that? Now, Looney, I've heard your nose's suggestions and I appreciate your feedback, but I really think we should invest the company's money in a much more booming market! Plus, the little spat she had with Blitz really made me question what her past must have been like. She does mention that Blitz got her when she was 18, so unfortunately that means we won't be seeing Loona Puppy anytime soon. I know, if you have to cry, we can pause the video and take a minute, but I still do want to see what things were like the day Loona was picked up. I mean, if we look at Vortex, who is our second canon hellhound of the series, it doesn't seem like he was adopted by Verosika. He just acts like a hired gun and nothing more. So is adopting a hellhound out of the norm? Did Blitz take that extra step because he felt sorry for Loona? Or maybe he's always wanted a daughter, but no female imp wants to be within 50 feet of him? I really want to see what they're going for here. And similar to Blitz, we're shown that Loona also has a pretty loveless existence, being socially awkward and having no friends to speak of, which we see during her adorable interactions with Tex. In fact, the only main difference between father and daughter here is their polar opposite coping mechanisms. Blitz deals with loneliness by forcibly shoving himself into everyone's personal lives just to feel included, while Loona distances herself from the world and just broods in her own dark corner. You know, because corners have an edge! This is why a proper Loona and Blitz episode needs to happen. The ways in which these two contrast show that a mutual daddy-daughter relationship could really do them some good. Not only could they give love to one another, but they can also neutralize their more extreme tendencies. Blitz could help Loona be a lot more outgoing and social, considering he was an entertainer that landed a pop star at one point, while Loona could teach Blitz to tone down his clingy obsessions, and just focus on a few good mutual friendships. Maybe one day we'll get some episodes that focus on that. I'm not gonna say that Loona is my new favorite character or anything, because that's not even close to true, but this episode at least intrigued me to her, and added some unique things to make her character worthwhile. Emotional vulnerability, hints at an interesting backstory, potential for future relationships, a unique role in the IMP business, lines of dialogue, and while she's still got a long way to go, I do at least want to watch her walk down that path of development, especially if she's doing it alongside her dad and her potential new friend. So yeah, sounds like a pretty solid outing. Shall we consider this a hell of a classic? Well, not quite, because there's still one teeny tiny major glaring flaw that really does drag this episode down for me, and that's the pacing and the structure. In my opinion, they tried to cram way too much stuff into the 17 minutes, and it leads to the focus being shifted around too much and certain plot elements feeling half-baked. I mean, the bet had a really funny setup in the beginning, but the fact that they just quickly end the whole thing with the draw felt kinda anticlimactic. Not to mention that some of the excuses they give to cover their butts are pretty weak too. Like, Verosika brings up the fact that IMP didn't have human disguises, and Moxie replies by saying that a human called him a possum. I mean, yeah, that's true, but how exactly does that fix the problem? I mean, that was just one group of college idiots who had the beer goggles on. You can't tell me that there weren't at least a few sober, smart people on the beach, or even on the pier that saw you guys. Especially because you were out in the open countless times during the episode with body bags. Heck, I'm surprised nothing happened after they showed themselves on public television during the pilot. There would be news stories out the wazoo if that happened. Millie making Filet-O-Fish was an awesome action scene, but it comes completely out of nowhere. Like, it's so detached from what was set up that it feels like it should be in a completely different episode. We're told about Beelzejuice during the parking lot scene, but we have no sense of what it is or what it does. From a glance, I thought it was just regular booze that devils happen to drink. But apparently it can turn a random fish into a little pork chop within seconds. That really should have been established better. If you remember the big chase scene for Murder Family, they had a moment beforehand where a bullet grazed Blitz's arm, showing that normal human guns can harm imps. I wouldn't have known that beforehand, but now I do. So we know the stakes, the tension is set up, so run into the forest, run! They should have had something similar here. Maybe if they redid the scene where Verosika takes a sip in the beginning of the episode, but instead of just wiping it off her lip, we see her horns get sharper or her tail get longer. Or maybe she puts her glasses down and her eyes get all red and creepy like Charlie's in Has Been Hotel. This would imply that Beelzejuice increases one's demonic energy and therefore could increase the demonic energy of anything it touches, like the fish. Or maybe I'm just super picky, who knows. But the worst victim of the pacing is the Blitz and Loona argument. I'm glad that we learned a lot more about Loona and made her matter as a character, but the scene on its own feels like it's missing so much emotional punch. It was set up really well with Blitz being overprotective throughout the episode, and it started off great with some heated back and forth and a pretty cutting line from Loona towards Blitz. But then right after that line, they immediately cut away from the scene, spoiling what could have been a well-paced emotional moment. They had music queued up too. It seemed like there was going to be something really hard-hitting, but instead we just go back to Eminem shenanigans, just like that. And maybe it's just me, but by the end, there's no real sense that this moment had any lasting impact on anyone. There's no resolution to the argument or even indication that the characters were affected by it at all. In the last part, Blitz is all smiles and middle fingers about his parking space, and Loona's just sad that Tex has a girlfriend, almost as if the scene 5 minutes ago didn't even happen. It almost feels like you could just lift this argument from the episode and not much would change story-wise. I'm not expecting some kind of grandiose apology scene like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that, but just some small hint that this moment impacted Loona or Blitz at all. Heck, give us one of those post-credit animatic scenes, where Blitz is singing in the van as Loona updates her social media. Have her post pictures of her and Tex and whatnot, and then at the very end, she'll post a picture of her and Blitz having a party in the parking space, but before she presses send, she deletes the word Blitz and writes the word dad, showing that she's not quite ready to say the word yet, which was established earlier, but she knows that Blitz was just trying to protect her. And even if he isn't her real dad, he does try, and he deserves a little something. I know some people might argue that this scene is meant to set something up in the future, which is fine if that's true, but remember that Helluva Boss is supposed to be an episodic series first and foremost, where each episode should be judged on its own merits. And just looking at the scene by itself, it has really clunky pacing and doesn't really have much justification for being there, other than taking us to Looney School. You might think I'm being too picky here, but if you want to see this whole thing done right, just look at Loo Loo Land. They handled the A, B, and C plots a lot better, giving you both intrigue and emotional connection, especially in the last part between Stolas and Octi. And in the end, all three plots merge together to make this fantastic scene of Stolas walking past the chaos of IMP fighting RoboFizz. It shows that Stolas is done splitting his focus between his own desires and that of his daughter. He's done with pretending to be defenseless just so Blitz will save him. He is walking forward on a new chapter of his life and starting a brand new arc towards being a better father. An emotional moment on its own that also works to establish future stories later. I could just go on and on about how much I love this episode, but bottom line, while Loo Loo Land is a masterpiece that was greater than the sum of its parts, Spring Broken nails the majority of its set pieces, but when the time comes to put it all together, it can get a little bit messy. It's like a turkey and Swiss versus a meatball sub. They both taste great, but one is more likely to fall apart when you take a big bite. I also didn't care much for the song, but that's more of a personal complaint. I'm just not big on sensual Madonna-style sex jams, even though Christina V's voice is pretty much perfect for a seductive succubus. But I will say that the song that plays in the credits, Mustang Dong, is hilarious. It's like a parody of an over-the-top heartbreak anthem, like something from Bon Jovi or Guns N' Roses. And hearing Blitz sing over it and even forget some of the lines is just perfect. Am I the only one that wanted to see Blitz jump right up on Verosika's stage and sing this song as a victory lap at the end? That would have been at least a little more satisfying than the ending we actually got. So yeah, all things considered, I would say that Spring Broken is a lot like an actual spring break party. It's fun and crazy with some definite highlights, but it can also feel really crowded, and after it's over, I have a few questions. If they cleared up certain things a little bit better and gave more time to the important parts, this would probably be my second favorite episode so far. But for what it is, it's still a good time with some solid laughs, top-notch animation, and the truckloads of character intrigue that make me want to keep watching. Seriously, this is why I write so many stories where Stolas and Blitz become genuine friends, or Loona and Blitz have daddy-daughter time, or Blitz and Moxie form a mutual respect for each other. They've endeared me to these characters, and I want to see how they interact, and ultimately, I want to see them truly be happy. It's a tough nut to crack, but Spindlehorse pulled it off beautifully. And even if this one wasn't the best, I still can't wait to see what lies in the future for our favorite underworld undertakers. Moxie and Millie having a baby. Or at least getting a full episode. Seriously, the C-plots are fun, but they deserve their own episode. Whew, sorry, allergy season.